understanding. And I think, again, the education, when the district administrative law judges or magistrates understand what is happening, why it's important, and that the community is looking for the judicial systems to be fair but concise.
Would you be willing to cooperate in meeting with the
Sure.
district magistrates?
Yeah, and in fact,
having them buy into it.
We would in this area we would partner again with the landlord associations, and I think there's a role also for the borough as well to say, oh yeah, we support this. We want healthy landlords.
Right.
It's important for the borough that we have healthy landlords.
It's seldom stated from this area, but if we have 1,000 landlords out there, and 500 landlords for all the rentals, that means we have 500 businesses here in town. They're all filing a Schedule C.
I agree.
And we want to encourage the growth of business.
They pay taxes, they buy things here. Yeah, they're an asset to your community, and if you're trying to recruit businesses, people don't generally move into an area and first purchase a home. They generally rent first and then purchase. And the quality of the rental housing has a direct impact on their longevity here in the community.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, we got a lot of information tonight. What I'm going to do is send this back to the Infrastructure Committee with staff to come up with a recommendation as the next step. Mull it over. Please keep the Landlord Association in the loop. We decide to go to that next step and see where it takes us. Okay.
Steve, before we move on in the agenda, I'm going to have to step out for a few minutes at 8 o'clock. As you mentioned during Cheryl's ad hoc committee report, item 13 on the agenda, the zoning matter is my ward. Would you be willing to go out of order and address that before I leave? Thank you. I'd just like to let council know, I got several phone calls, spoke with several residents in the neighborhood where this property exists. All of them are opposed to the application that's been submitted. I looked at it and you know, as I see it, I do not believe the application establishes a unique and unusual hardship that would result from complying with the current zoning requirements as they are. And I believe a variance, if a variance were to be granted, it would certainly not be beneficial to the neighborhood. In fact, I think it would be detrimental. So I just wanted to let council members know on Monday I intend to make a motion that we as council express our strong opposition to the application.
Okay, we'll have that listed. Also, along with that, if you would like to, we could also send our solicitor.
Yes.
We'll have that listed. Okay. Continuing on now with the presentation from Housing Divisions.
Hello, I'm Judy, member from Genesis Housing, and this is Heather Schroeder from Housing Visions, and we're back again. So I want to thank you for giving us time to give you an update and to ask for your support on the project of Beach Street Factory, which we've been talking about in the last few years. We applied for tax credits. The first time we put in an application just to sort of see what the state thought of the project. We had a fairly good response to the project, the location, the type of renovation to a vacant building. Last year we put in an application which we really hoped to get the funding. And we came really, really close. And the state, PHFA, Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency, ranks projects, and they give points. And they give points for every one of these segments in this lovely application that they require you to submit. And Heather's going to talk a little bit about what's in the application every year. But we were short a few points. And so we look at what we can do if we're going to resubmit. And the state did encourage us to resubmit. But if we resubmit, what can we do to improve the project? And initially they get a lot of projects in, and then there's an initial screening, and then they look at all the other projects. And all of those projects are good projects. They're exciting projects. They are bringing, renovating properties, they're building new construction for affordable rental units across the state. And so it's a tough decision. And for our project, there were things that we didn't get points for. We had to get a conditional use approval last year. And when the date of submitting, we hadn't gotten the approval. We have gotten the approval from you, and we're very grateful for that. But we didn't get points for it because it wasn't there when we put it in. So this year it'll be there. And one of the things that's not officially points, but is very much part of the thing, is political support. And we did really well in the community support section. But we didn't on the political support. And we didn't ask you directly for a letter of support, but we are this year because we're trying to really maximize the points, because this was really it. I mean, Genesis Housing has been in Pottstown for a long time now. We've done a lot of renovations, new construction, but we've not been able to take on big properties. We were a small partner at the Jefferson School, renovations when we first started working in Pottstown. But we've done mostly single-family houses, new construction of houses. But these big properties are very difficult to figure out what to do, and they drag down the neighborhood around them. And so we really wanted to bring a qualified developer in, and so we brought Housing Visions in. We're going to talk a little bit more about the project, and then we've been talking, and I've been talking about what good job Housing Visions does, but we brought a little video that will end our presentation that is other people talking about what Housing Visions has done in other communities. So we really do want you to hear from other places that have been in your position and have joined with Housing Visions on redevelopment projects that have brought significant improvements to their communities. So in the handouts, we've provided information about the project just to sort of refresh your memory. It's in my memory from, we've been working on it all year, but it's been about a year since we really talked about it to council. So it's the Facera's building at Beach and Evans. It has been empty for many, many years. It is not getting in better shape as the time has gone by. The area around it has not been improving. We're proposing 43 apartments, and then Art Fusion to be the tenant to move their art school so they can have an ADA compliant school situation that can allow more groups to come in. We're providing a very affordable rent for them so they could be stable and survive and thrive as an important part of Pottstown's cultural life. We'll be providing 6 ADA units and 2 for hearing and vision units, so we'll be serving some handicapped people who right now do not have units easily available. And then we're going to end up with a $12.7 million investment. And that only works because we've layered subsidies in there from the government and from the tax credits. Because on the private market, this building would not get renovated. I mean, the original owners, that was their intention, and it's just not feasible. And so putting in tax credits is a guarantee for 30 years of the types of management and the good landlord process, the best practices are what's implied in a tax credit project. So I'm going to let Heather talk a little bit more about the investment and the property management.
Thanks, Judy. So, it's great to see you all again. Thank you again for having us. One thing I wanted to call your attention to, I handed out a letter from Obi Mild of Masrioni and Associates. They are our market analyst on this project, and Obi actually lives up the street from our project site on North Evans. She's a Pottstown resident and an expert. For 15 years, she has been a market analyst writing these kinds of studies. She's done 99 market studies to date on multifamily rental developments. And the way that these are used is to lay out the facts for the state, who, the folks in Harrisburg are less familiar with each of the municipalities across the Commonwealth that are looking for the funding. So her report serves to outline basically the local demographics and the market conditions that necessitate this kind of investment in Pottstown. So just as some of the excerpts from her report, she had intended to be here tonight and is unfortunately homesick with the flu. So she did want me to pass along these statistics to you. For example, the median year that houses were built in Pottstown is 1943, and less than 5% of the housing here has been built since 1990. And it's wonderful to have a historic building stock, but there are certain limitations in terms of the quality of that housing if there isn't reinvestment to maintain a certain standard of those units. Of the 10,000 housing units in Pottstown, 44% are rented. The median income here is $37,781, and based on the tax credit rents that the state specifies, she calculated that more than half of all Pottstown households would qualify for the affordable units that we are offering. One point that we want to emphasize is that Montgomery County is a very high-income county relative to the rest of the Commonwealth. So when you look at the average rents throughout Montgomery County, they are higher than a lot of county average rents elsewhere in the state. So an average, an affordable rent in Pottstown might be a higher income rent somewhere else. We're lucky in that regard that these are higher than usual average rents. And the table that she put forth here shows that the minimum household income for one of our units would be $8,850. That's restricted to 6 of the units, and those are the ones that we discussed previously are supported by people who are already enrolled in Montgomery County supported housing programs. Those are the folks with developmental disabilities who will be serving. For everyone else, the minimum household income that they have to meet is $22,000 a year, and the maximum income is $51,000 a year. So you can see there's a considerable range, but I think all of those income levels are close to home. Those are your friends and neighbors and people who already live in Pottstown and might not have a choice right now in terms of the standard of high quality housing that they would like to be in. The purpose of this reinvestment is to provide an alternative. High quality housing that is affordable to people who already live in Montgomery County, specifically in Pottstown, and to give them a choice. It's also going to be a different aesthetic, something a little bit more industrial and artsy looking. Another point from Obi's report is about accessibility. On the county statistics state that some tenants who need wheelchair accessible units can wait up to 6 years for a suitable apartment. That's why it was very important for us to include a lot of ADA compliant units, both for those with mobility impairments and hearing and vision disabilities. And just to summarize, she mentioned some of the benefits to having this development in Pottstown. In addition to the $12.7 million investment, Obi herself is an example of the local hiring. We have used an architectural firm that's local. We're using a local construction company, local jobs during construction to help fuel that sector of the economy. She mentions our increased tax revenues. Over the lifetime of the project, this is a 30-year compliance period. and I'll talk a little bit more about compliance, but over the 30 years, our contribution to the tax rolls above and beyond the current tax assessment for this property is expected to be just shy of $1 million extra that's coming into the community. It also, we heard about the Better Landlords program. When you have this kind of investment coming into a core property in a neighborhood, it inspires others to elevate their quality. You start to see competition for good tenants, and that inspires others to invest what they can to bring up the standard of good quality housing. Not to mention that bringing an art gallery into the neighborhood will increase positive activity in this site. In terms of property management, Housing Visions is celebrating our 25th year this year. We are a property management, development, and construction company. And with our track record, we've built over 1,000 units of housing in 300 buildings across 11 different cities. So we've met various challenges, and one thing that folks will attest to in the video clips that you'll see is that our approach is really tailored to each community. The reason that we focused on the arts community in Pottstown is because that is a level of activity here that really impressed us, and our community partners said this is what we need. There's a market here for this kind of housing, for this kind of economic development, and we want to fill that need. In terms of additional investment, we'll be hiring 2 full-time staff to manage the property, on-site, 40 hours a week. We'll have a leasing office on-site in addition to a maintenance office. So when there are concerns, again, I kept smiling during the Better Landlords presentation because it's near and dear to our hearts that you have to do the upfront legwork to get the good tenants, and then you have to keep those good tenants happy to get them to stay. And that entails having accessible management, timely maintenance, response to maintenance requests, making sure that people are happy in their homes. And then in terms of our tax credit application this year, Judy mentioned this is the volume. It continues to grow. It's not quite done yet. It's due February 13th, so that's the day that we'll be submitting to the state. They expect to make announcements of awards in June, and from there, we would come back to you and begin the land development approval process. We fully understand that nothing is signed or sealed or decided in that regard, and that's part of the state's course of action as well. They say, yes, we'll give you funding, but it's up to the community to say what's appropriate. So it really, you have the final say in that, and I just want to make sure that that's clear. We have addressed your parking concerns. We are actively pursuing adjacent properties for acquisition, and we'll keep you notified of that progress during this application period. And then once we're funded and approved and begin construction, it would be about a year of construction, and then leasing would begin, and then we'd be here for a very long time. The 30-year tax credit period is mandated by the funding source. Our investors will come and check up on the property on at least an annual basis, make sure that it's meeting their standards. The state will do the same. And if we are found to be out of compliance with the tax credit program, it's called a recapture of tax credits. That is a developer's worst nightmare. It's very rare for that to happen, but when it does, it means that you have to pay the money back. We are not in a financial position to do that, and our 25-year track record attests to the fact that we've never had to do that and never intend to. So there's a very strong financial incentive for us to keep our word and maintain both our tenant standards and our property standards throughout the life of the project.
So we're going to go to the video about Housing Visions for you. But I just want to say that we know that taking a risk is always difficult, that you don't know for sure what's going to happen. And after it happens and it comes out well, people sort of forget how difficult the decision was. But doing nothing and not taking the risk has its own consequences. So we really hope that you will go along with what we've been trying to propose with bringing in Art Fusion as a solid tenant, someone we know well. Genesis Housing is very committed to Pottstown and will continue to be committed to Pottstown. We're bringing in Housing Visions, who are signing up for 30 years. So it's really a significant investment and a significant commitment. And we do hope that you will find it able to support bringing in high-quality rental housing and to take care of a blighted property. So to get this video to work, which one do you? All this technology.
3, 2, 1.
What we did is we got in a car and we went to this housing mission in Syracuse a couple years ago. We were so impressed. The first thing I did was, I'd like to go to their oldest building and see what it looks like. And that's what we did, and it was beautiful, and it was over 20 years old. That to me, it started the inspiration to work with Housing Visions, and we're so happy we did. This is what nonprofits should be doing, is collaborating, let the people who do the right things and do those things perfectly do the job, and that is Housing Visions.
Urban blight in Albany will soon come down. Habitat for Humanity and its partner Housing Visions today announced the demolition of a stretch of buildings on Sheridan Avenue. The homes were once featured on Jeopardy as a definition of urban blight. They're being torn down to make way for affordable housing.
That's right, Mary. One of the complaints about the city is the abundance of abandoned and run-down buildings. Today, a new apartment building is helping to change the landscape and hopefully the attitude in the city of Utica. Today, a building that once looked like this is now replaced with this. Genesee Crossing will provide 33 new affordable apartments in the city of Utica.
We want to associate that with community revitalization. And partnering with the city of Utica and Housing Visions, we're able to, over time, improve the quality of life in the neighborhood.
Lot. Now, Housing Visions wants to put 20 of those 51 affordable housing units right here, which would help not only with the housing need in this area, but also would help cleaning up the look of this north side town.
About 3/4 of our city's population qualifies for affordable housing, but the amount of really good, high-quality affordable housing is very limited.
Which is why Northside advocates support turning this vacant lot into this, a 20-unit affordable housing complex with commercial space on the first floor, proposed by Housing Visions of Syracuse, an organization that has already built more than 1,000 affordable housing units like these across central New York. Teachers in the area, nursing students, and people who work at places like St. Joseph's Hospital qualify for affordable housing, but have a hard time finding good quality homes. Fixing up buildings like this one, an old orphanage that has been vacant for more than a decade, would immediately address that need.
So we're talking about people who really make our neighborhood great, but right now often have difficulty finding housing that they can afford that's actually decent. And so this is a way to keep them here, keep them more productive, and help them not have to worry about slum landlords.
As Ben was saying, it didn't take a whole lot of time to convince me that this was a great project. For one thing, there was this amazing portfolio of the projects that Housing Visions had already accomplished. And when we started looking at the photo of them, one of the things that was readily apparent, it was very difficult to pigeonhole these people the way people try to pigeonhole developers who do affordable housing, right? It's like, you know, that the public's vision of affordable housing is kind of negative. There's also a pejorative term, right? And so you've got some sort of preconceived notion of what this is about, and yet, you know, looking through the portfolio, each project was unique, reflecting, I think, the view that each resident is unique. These are individual people, with individual lives.
These buildings, these structures that we're building in our city have really made a tremendous difference, you know, in the city as a whole. It's been a great relationship. I know the Housing Visions has made a long-term commitment here as part of this project. And we're looking forward to working with them for.
and we hope that we'll be able to bring Beach Street back to be another success for Housing Visions and for Foxhall. With that, see if you have any questions or anything else we have to cover.
I just have a question regarding minority participation in the process of construction, and how do people go about vetting, being vetted, or, because I know when there's federal dollars, there's also some percent tie into minority participation.
Yeah, we work with the state on all hiring requirements to make sure that we're meeting whatever percentages that they mandate. We often exceed those percentages just through our contacts in the area.
Questions?
Where does the $12.7 million investment go?
Well, it goes into the building.
To the reconstruction.
About $9 million of that is direct construction costs, $9.5 million. There are fees associated with the administration of the program, as there are with any government funds. A certain amount goes towards the administration, but really the vast bulk of that investment is coming right back into the building.
In the building. And would that be done by our local residents? We have a high unemployment rate, local contractors.
Yeah. Yeah, we're working with a general contractor, McDonald Building Company out of Bluebell, and I know that their subs are based locally. It just makes economic sense to use local labor so that you're not paying additional fees for people to travel. You want to make sure that your crew can get there on time, and that requires that they're local.
Okay.
But I do want to be clear that we're not a job training program, so someone who's just unemployed that wants to do construction, this is a high-quality renovation, so, we'll be having people with expertise in construction be doing this, but we are, the contractors we regularly use who are local have expressed an interest in being subs, and we will be working with that to facilitate them being able to at least bid on those jobs and hopefully be able to work locally.
Is there any way to ensure that qualified people who are residents move to the top of the list?
For employment?
Or for being a sub, or for being the general?
If they're already in the trade, then
Yes.
they certainly can participate. As an individual, I'm not sure how many individuals this job would be hiring. It's more likely you need to be a contractor. You're a plumber already with a plumbing firm, not someone who sort of knows plumbing.
Okay.
Everyone has to be insured and properly
Right.
certified.
So nothing has changed in your funding sources of where you're applying for tax credits since the beginning of presentations. $9 million is still coming from low-income housing tax credits, correct?
Well, it's actually it's the full project cost minus the county funding. So we have, Ben, you can help me with the specifics. I don't have my budget in front of me. And
I actually have Ben's budget.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Okay, so it's nearly $9 million in the low-income housing credits.
Right.
And with that, then the real estate taxes that are collectible are set. So there would be no reassessment of the property. It's going to be, it's not going to be at fair market value. It's going to be
fair market value. So the real estate taxes, after the project's done, the tax assessor from the county will come out and they will assess the property at its new value. So it's worth what it is now, with the condition it is. They'll have access to all the building permit and know the money that was put in. And then they'll do the county analysis of what it's worth, and that will come up with the taxable amount.
okay, so I'm looking at, again, Ben's information, and the real estate taxes will go to I'll just go down to year 10, because they increased just minimally.
Okay.
And the total real estate taxes in year 10 is $53,496.
That sounds about right.
Okay. And I'm very confused about some of the information from the school district, because I did some research, and the per pupil cost in the borough of Pottstown School District $17,627. 3 students in this building would offset the total real estate taxes that are collectible in the 10th year.
I'd be happy to provide the letter from our tax attorney that says how the calculation was made. That's what we submit to the state, that's what they encourage us to do and rely on as their tax information.
And just on that 17, that's not how you calculate it, because like the school building, cost of the school building is, you divide it by the number of students. So you add 1 student to a classroom, but it doesn't need a new teacher, it doesn't need a new classroom. It doesn't add $17,000. That's not the way that math works.
How does the math work then with how the individual property owners are taxed for school taxes? Because it's incredibly high in Borough Pottstown.
It is high. This will increase your tax base, and by increasing the tax base, more tax revenue is given. And properties around improve too, and other people invest, that increases your tax base. But doing the math in the school district, that doesn't work, because if 1 student moves out, the school district doesn't save $17,000.
And you can provide this calculation?
What?
Yeah, the property tax calculation?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I'm looking at this spreadsheet from Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency application. And line 44 talks about the real estate taxes. She talked about year 10, 2013 at $53,496 on a $12 million building. I'm willing to guess that the residents that sit up front here pay more for our 8 or 9 houses.
They pay more than $44,000 a year?
I'll bet. I know what mine are, and I'm guessing what the others are. So with our 9 little houses, we're paying more than that in real estate taxes. Now you have a $12 million structure, and you only want to pay that.
Well, the way that the real estate taxes are calculated with federal money is through the income approach rather than the property approach. So the basis is, what kind of rents will be generated.
That's all well and good. That might be legal, but that's not fair to our residents.
The way property taxes are done in Pennsylvania, though, is based on the value of the property by the county tax assessor, and that's what the expert did, was calculate how the tax assessor would come up with it, and that is unfortunately in Pottstown, what Genesis regularly puts into a single-family home is not what we can sell it for. So, what you can sell it for is different than the amount of money we're putting in here, and that's why a private entity won't come and just invest $12 million into that project. Right. It's not going to be worth $12 million when we're done. It'll be worth less.
If you invest $12.7, what would you think it's worth?
That's when the tax assessor came up with what they thought the property value did, and then you use the ratio that the tax assessor does, which is about 50%. So there are calculations. I don't have them in front of me, but we can provide them.
It was a small fraction of the investment cost.
And that is, one of the problems that Pottstown faces is that it's not, put the same building and you put it in Manhattan and it would be worth a lot more.
Of course.
And people invest a lot more in those places. It holds back investment, that what you invest, you can't get your money out. And that's a limit. So if we can raise the tax base and make properties all worth more, that helps everybody. And so having a big empty building depresses values. And so you put this in, it's to support values and hopefully lead to values going regularly up. And then people would be more willing to invest more money into their properties.
Now, let's revisit one of your statements that when the building is complete, when the project's done, is that 30 years from now, or is that one of these years on this sheet?
That would be about project completion? When the building itself
whenever
is...
you were claiming that it gets reassessed, this sheet goes up to the year 2030, and even at that year, you're only paying $64,000 in taxes.
Right, it would be reassessed upon completion of construction, which would be approximately December of 2016.
2016. Then why
Oh, I'm
did
sorry,
then
2017.
chart continue?
2017, yeah. Forgive me, in the year.
Why does this estimate for real estate taxes continue all the way to year 2030?
because we will be paying taxes through at least 2030 on this building. We will be paying our annual.
But at which rate?
Pardon?
Yeah, at which rate? If you're telling me in 2016 we're going to reevaluate and reassess it at $6 billion, that's one argument. But if it stays at the same rate, that's a different argument.
So,
So
back up, let me
in
just see that we're all
2017,
talking on the
which
same
is-
thing. So, the property is worth, right now, in its the condition, a fairly low tax assessment.
Right.
We put in the money to improve it, the county comes out, they reassess it, when we occupy it, they'll reassess it.
Mhm.
So that when people are moving in, they come out, they assess it, and they say what the building will be worth be sold. And then they do a ratio of that for what they tax. So at this point, the county ratio is about 50%, 48.
54.
54, is it? Okay. My math just makes it 50%. So that number, now the next year, the county doesn't come out again and look at it. If they do a countywide assessment at some point in that 30 years, which is likely, that's when it would get reassessed again. And the taxes that are generated are based on the rate that U.S. Council do, the county, and the school district. And so those numbers could change. For this application, they ask us to do a projection. And so they hire an expert who looks at the values in the community, when it's finished, what they think it's worth, and they do that projection, and that's how that number comes up.
So the current taxes on this property are roughly $15,000 a year.
15.
Right. We are expecting that after improvements, the assessment will increase by at least $30,000 annually to approximately $45,000 a year in year one. And then, of course, it would increase annually at the rate of 3% annually, or whatever, our certain increased percentage. So agglomerated over the initial 30-year life of the project, that would be roughly $1 million additional on the tax, in tax revenue.
And if the property stayed empty, in which case it probably would have fallen down and gone even lower. So,
And depressed the neighboring property value.
but it is a mathematical calculation. So, the school district could raise taxes, the county could come and reassess. But for this application, they ask you to project, and so that's what it is. It's a projection that has an even increase. We don't know what you may hold taxes level for 10 years, and so municipal taxes may not go up. She can't put in an application that way. They have criteria for what you put in, for how much you should produce every
year. Ms. Mild in her report and so forth as far as market analysis. Each time we hear a presentation, we get more information. And one thing that concerns me is, first of all, how much is the county handing up for this project?
About $1.2 million.
Okay. And you have in here, or she has in here, that the Montgomery County Housing Authority reports that they have 578 households on their waiting list for such apartments.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There is only 29 of these type of apartments which are ADA accessible and so forth currently in Placertown. Where are the artists that, this lady doesn't touch at all on any of the artists that are going to be, this is going to be marketed to?
Yeah, so sort of apples and oranges. The marketing study has certain requirements that the state asks for you to check off these little boxes, and that's what this report largely does, is looks at this, and this, and this. And then we put in the vision and why this project's unique. And one of the reasons that this project is unique is because of the artist component. And we've made this commitment for working with Art Fusion, providing connections between the tenants and Art Fusion, that they would be members of Art Fusion, be able to take classes there, and that we'll do an outreach to artists to be the tenants. And most of the units are one bedroom, and so we're really going to be sending out to Pottstown artists first, to let them know about the availability of these large apartments with very good light, and the opportunity to be close to Art Fusion. And then we'll also be sending out information to artists in the general community, past that, in some of the art trades, some of the cooperations and groups that artists belong to. And they have email newsletters and things like that. We'll be working with those to encourage artists. And then for the tenants that are there, whether they're in wheelchair, and that's what Obi was talking about, is the lack of wheelchair accessible units. that this building is going to be feeling the arts. So everything from the community room is going to have displays of artwork and galleries and access to Art Fusion. And so tenants are going to be very connected to the arts in all of the activities that we're doing, and with the activities we're going to be doing are all connected to making this a really unique living situation that people would like to be in.
Beyond the PHFA market study, this is a requirement for, this is an excerpt that OB did of our, 90-page market study, just to try to synthesize some of the major points. We did commission a separate arts market analysis from her when we first embarked on this project.
I don't have that in front of me, though. I only have what you gave us.
I can share that with you, and I apologize that that didn't make it into the summary today. But that is what we used as the basis for proceeding that direction. If there weren't a market for it, we are business people at the end of the day. We wouldn't be pursuing that line of business if there weren't a market for these units.
Well, there is a market for it, according to this. And the county, it seems with the 43 units, the county's going to grab them all up because the need is there for it.
I'm sorry, that's inaccurate.
I'm just basing on the county's already anteing up $1.2 million for 6 units.
That's actually incorrect. They are providing $750,000 to set aside 6 units for adults with developmental disabilities and behavioral health issues. The $750,000 from the Department of Behavioral Health is a capital subsidy that comes in as an upfront development incentive, so that once those units are constructed, we will set them aside on a preferential leasing basis for 6 individuals with those special needs. So there are 6 units that are tied to county funding, and that is it.
But once again, the preface to the Montgomery County Housing Authority being in her report states that there's a need for 578. There's a waiting list.
There's tremendous need, but the method of finding tenants.
I'm just saying who's going to
But we're going to be marketing to Pottstown, and we believe there's a lot of Pottstown residents who meet the income who are going to be lining up for a property to be in such a nice apartment. And the criteria.
Well, I'm not disagreeing with that.
The criteria that we're looking at will eliminate a lot of the housing authority people from not having sufficient income to be able to afford to live there, because this is not a building that comes with subsidies for each unit.
One thing that I wanted to mention is that we are not pioneering this concept. PHFA just last year funded a development in Philadelphia with the same concept, that they would be marketed to artists with the idea that there is an attraction element there, that people with similar interests like to live together, and if you can kind of market specifically to that group, that is actually a permitted item in the federal law, that you are allowed to market to people with an interest in the literary or artistic pursuits, I believe is their language. That's permissible under fair housing. That is something that's quite conventional to be combined with the affordable housing program. And I would be more than happy to provide additional examples of where that's been successful.
County's kicking in $1.2 million. Do you happen to know if that's $1.2 million is collected tax money from all the residents in the county, or are they passing on grant money?
It's a combination. Some of the money comes from mortgage tax through the Housing Trust Fund.
The Housing Trust Fund. So when you record a mortgage, that creates money in the Housing Trust Fund. So small numbers from the Housing Trust Fund. Additional money is from the RDA.
Yes.
And then, which is a repayment from a previous project, repaid its grant money, and so it became available. And then the majority of the money, $750,000, is from the Developmental Health Department, and that is a state money on savings that was on the programs that they run, created a fund, and that is put into capital to create more units.
So a good portion of that $1 million could have been money collected from our residents.
No.
Collected by the county, now they're giving it back so you can build this building.
No, most residents did not. It's not county regular general fund at all. It's none of the general fund. recording fees for the Housing Trust Fund. So some of the money came from that.
That's $218,000.
The $750 is the savings that the Payroll Health Department did in running their programs. If the state had a program that gave that money back from the savings that they did on their programs. And then the RDA money is a repayment of a grant from another project, refinanced, we paid it, and now they're using the money again.
Okay.
Let me give you a scenario, kind of piggybacking off what Councilman was saying. Say you're getting tenants for this building, okay, and you only fill 50, 60, 70% of the building, okay? What's stopping the county from coming in and saying, okay, we'll take the rest?
It's a state program, so it's, you know, just the way that this program functions is that we're private landlords. We have the discretion. At the end of the day, we make a decision on you know, who to market to and who to lease to within fair housing. You know, under this incentive program, you know, we've agreed to provide these 6 units on a preferential basis. You know, in part because they've provided